What's going on, people? You are now getting an earful. This is a rich connection conversation. In this series, we bring together some of Boston's most talented individuals. We had Mike Dees, you guys know who he is. We've had Peter Edward of Mathematic Athletics, and our third guest is Parvena of Balloon Pop. If you haven't seen her work, please go check out her Instagram. But as I said before, I hate introducing my guests because it takes away from them. I want you to tell your story. Please introduce yourself to the public and to the people of Boston. What's good?
Thank you, Ron. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of
My
course.
name is Parvena Baldeo. I am the owner of Balloon Pop Boston. We've been around for 8 years, so it's been some time now. And we only specialize in balloon displays, nothing else, strictly balloon decor. Let's see. And I serve Boston, the surrounding states. And I'm trying to think of some things that people probably don't know about me. And I would say that I'm an graduate at UMass Boston, and I have a full-time job, which a lot of people don't know that, but kind of want to throw that out there. So I work for
Right.
a for-profit company where we help doctors who serve pregnant and postpartum patients, and also our pediatrics population, just making sure that all providers are well equipped and, doing their job. So I love it. It's what mental health is definitely a field that I'm very passionate about. So it's good to, you know, have the balloon business going and working full time. You can't be mad at two incomes coming in. So that's also a good thing.
That's always multiple
Yeah.
streams of income is the way to go. We're definitely
Yeah.
gonna dive into balloon pop, but I always like to have these conversations because when I think about networking and connecting with individuals, it's important to connect with individuals that and you have arm's reach with. Like, for us, like, we know each other through a mutual friend. And, we've been able to hang out here and there and probably hear about each other's stories through our mutual friend, right?
Yep.
But I've been able to see what you're doing from afar. I've done business with you where you came to decor. It was small, but you came to decor the first property that I bought with my
Yeah.
business partner. You came on, you did that decor. That was super dope. And that was because you were a friend of a friend. Now, fast forward,
Mhm.
looking at that and looking what you've done in the city, looking how much collaborations you've done. I know that there's other individuals in your space, but I feel as though that you're one of the first individuals that I've seen actually doing it at a very high level, at a very high clip. Before we get into balloon pop, I want to
Yep.
talk about you, where you come from. How did you get started? What high schools you went to? How did you grow up in Boston? So, you know, you come from a West Indian background.
Yeah.
And if you're not from the Boston area, or if you're not familiar with the Caribbean islands, you may not necessarily know your culture and background. So give us some education and highlight some of the things growing up in your culture.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up, let's see. So my parents are Guyanese. I was born and raised here in Dorchester. I've been here all my life.
Hmm.
I would say, look, my ancestors are from India, so we do have like that Indian culture. Like our gods are like 100 plus. So we believe in like reincarnation. So like if one person passes away, it's like they're reincarnated in something else. And that's how it is with our gods, which is why we have so many.
Hmm.
And I think a question that you had asked was like, how does that influence like me growing up being Guyanese?
Yeah.
I would say like very sheltered, which I looking back, I totally get it now. It's like, my parents are just trying to protect me from whatever, whatever they thought was probably against me. But
Okay.
really just what they taught us or taught me and my sisters was, just go to school, get a good job, stand on your own 2 feet, and really just, provide for yourself and hopefully marry within your own culture. Um and I would say, I'm trying to think of like your other questions that you were asked. There was a couple
Hold
in
on.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah. We'll get to them. We'll get to them.
yeah. But I would say high school. Let's talk about that. So I went to Health Careers Academy. I think it's called Edwards Kennedy, something else now. So a lot of what my parents wanted me to be like a nurse or a doctor, which that didn't happen. I'm a balloon artist, business owner, so you could see how that kind of went
Yep,
to a
yep.
whole other direction. And let's see, so I graduated in like 2008, I would say. Went to UMass. studied like mental health. So, like I said, it went into a whole different direction of where I am now. But I would say like my parents, just having them keeping me sheltered definitely kept me on the right path.
I do have a question though. So you
Yeah,
said that your ancestors and are your grandparents Indian or they're Guyanese?
they're Guyanese.
So how does is it similar to like the Haitian background where, we have a French background and we were colonized by the French and obviously we fought for our freedom. Is it the same type of situation where you
Yeah,
guys
it's
were
like
colonized by the
slaves. Yeah, like the Indians like from India. So I would say South America.
Okay,
South India, I would say. They were
mhm,
brought to Guyana as slaves.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do have a so culture wise, do you guys like because I know like like Cape Verdeans, if you talk to a Cape Verdean person they don't necessarily, depending on who you talk to, Portugal and their Portuguese ties may not be talked about as much because they were enslaved by the Portuguese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Haitians, where as much as France and Paris is cool, and I got a chance to go there this past summer, it's not necessarily the biggest thing where we're talking about the French and accepting their culture and history. Is that the same thing in the Guyanese culture where the Indian history is not really accepted, or you guys talk about it, or do you guys is it a mesh of best of both worlds?
I think it's a measure festival of both worlds. Yeah. Like
Okay.
we're like as being a Guyanese, I know like my community, my family, like we're so proud of the Indian culture.
Okay.
So that's one thing we hold high.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Um, what's your favorite Guyanese dish or Indian dish?
Man, I think the Indian dish would be naan, which is like the bread, the soft kind of like
Mhm.
it's like roti.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I definitely like naan, like the tikka masala with the
Yep.
basmati rice or jasmine
Okay.
rice. But with the Guyanese world, people are gonna kill me for saying this, but it's either chicken curry or curry chicken. I'm pretty sure you heard of that battle. I to this day don't know what the correct terminology as a Guyanese is. I say curry chicken, but
Yep.
I love me some curry chicken and some roti. Ooh, like that. That gets
That,
me. That's my
that's
favorite
your
Guyanese dish. From
that's your
my mom
vice.
only. Yeah.
Yo, that's your vice. I get it. I get it. So you grew up in Dorchester. You said you went to health career academies, uh, and you went to UMass Boston. What led to you going to UMass Boston? And I got a part two question of that is,
Yeah.
you know, HBCUs, historic Black colleges are now popular, very popular. And I felt as though that in Boston, we didn't necessarily get a lot. If you grew up in Boston, I feel as though like it was BC, BU,
Yep.
Northeastern, UMass. Like we didn't necessarily get an opportunity to really hear about some of these historic Black colleges. That was
Yeah.
that the same thing for you in
I
regards
think
to
so.
choosing
Now that
UMass?
you, yeah, though I like the way you laid that out because now that I'm thinking back, it was like you gotta get into Northeastern, you gotta get into
Yeah,
BU. Like if you don't, ooh, something wrong with you.
yeah,
But I feel
yeah.
like, yeah, a lot of like the historical like Black colleges, I really, I like I said, my friends would be the ones to kind of talk about that. But for me, it was more like I'm being told you gotta get into Northeastern, BU, BC.
Mhm.
So I really didn't consider the historical Black colleges.
Isn't that crazy? Like I feel as because I don't live in Boston, so when
Mm,
I come to the DC, Maryland area, a few years ago, I would tell people obviously I went to Curry College, so it's a private
mhm.
school within Mass, and if you're from Mass, you know the school, but you don't necessarily know it outside of the region, right? And it's not a name brand like Howard. So when I would tell people like, yo, where I come from, like it's BC or nothing, it's Northeastern or nothing, you know what I mean? And like I didn't get into any of those schools, and I felt like a sped because I'm like, damn, I didn't get to Northeastern, like you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Even
And I
me
went to
going to UMass. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
no, 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 no. But I'm saying you went to, but UMass was still like you had Dartmouth, Amherst. You know what I mean? At least UMass was known for at least basketball. They played in the tournament. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You had some people
Yeah.
come out of UMass, but I just feel as though like we didn't really have the HBCU opportunities, or we were talked to about HBCUs. It was the
Yep.
big schools or bus.
Yep. That's true. That's true.
So You graduated. What degrees did you graduate with at UMass?
So I had a bachelor's in liberal arts, but I had two majors. So I had sociology and psychology with a minor in criminal justice. My hope was to be a social worker, but it just it just wasn't what I got to know exactly what social workers do, and I just felt like I like being on the program end of things, like building mental health programs.
Uh-huh.
So that's always I knew I needed to get there. That's what I wanted to do more than anything.
Okay, so you wanted to be a social worker, but you now own Balloon Pop, and you've been doing that for the last 8 years. And
Yeah,
obviously, this is why you are on this podcast because of that. Few more questions. I just have one
yeah,
more question about the Guyanese background here.
of course.
So, how was dating in high school? Because I feel as though that you guys had like that strict culture, like the Haitians did, like that you couldn't go outside, you couldn't do a lot
Oh
of
no,
things, especially if you was a girl. But I could only imagine from your perspective. So, how was dating like? Because you mentioned in your intro, it was recommended that you dated within the culture and marry
yeah,
within the culture.
yeah.
How was that? How did that impact you growing up in your high school career when you started dating, and how has that impacted you now as an adult?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, like for my upbringing, I couldn't even cross a dead end street. Like I would get in trouble for cross. Like, isn't that crazy? I would get in
Wait, wait,
trouble.
wait, 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 wait.
Like a
Time
dead
out,
end
time out.
street was
You
not
couldn't
allowed to
cross the
cross.
dead end street.
Couldn't, but I still crossed it. But I was told not to. Like that's how crazy it was. And it like you couldn't even like it in the evening. You're not allowed to sit. Like there's no reason why you're sitting on the front porch. Like why are you outside? You should be in the house at all times.
Damn.
Like, yeah, it was all about your books, study. Just they like watch Indian movies all day, which I like because I learned Hindi. So I'm not mad about that.
And you
Like
speak?
Indian
Do you?
movie, yeah, I speak a little bit, but like I haven't spoken it to anyone in a while, so it comes out kind of weird. But
Got you.
like Indian, I'm going on a tangent, but Indian movies, Indian songs, Guyanese community, that's our life. But let's see. So dating. So I've been with my fiance since like 2006. He's Jamaican. He's Bayesian.
Hmm.
That was the only person that I like dated in high school. Got to know on that level. I think what connected us was he kind of came from, now that I think about it, the same type of kind of upbringing where it's like strictly, focus on school and get into sports and do whatever. But he has strict parents too. So I think we kind of connected in that sense. But I would say I'm trying to think back to your questions in terms of dating. Yeah, I didn't date. Like I found one person.
And that was it. So when you and your fiance when you first got together, was
Yeah.
that a struggle of bringing him around and
Oh
culture
yeah.
clash?
Yep. Because I think what ended up happening is you're as my culture, you're looking at this color of your skin. You're looking at the hair type. That this person doesn't look Indian. But then they're Caribbean, so they understand curry chicken. They understand the road. They get it. They get the soca music, the reggae music we listen to, the chutney music Guyanese people listen to. Like he understands that. But for my family, my culture, it's like, well, it's not about that. It's how you look. You don't look like
So
Parvena. Or
no, I get that. So
yeah.
what I'm confused about, so if I'm confused because and I'm gonna sound like a dummy here, right? You're probably the only Guyanese person, not the only, because I've been exposed to Guyana and Guyanese and all that stuff. I've been exposed to the culture. Obviously, growing
Yeah.
up in Boston, you have the Caribbean Festival, and you get all the Caribbean countries come together and
I
celebrate.
never been to a carnival in my life, but go on.
So that was and so you may not be able to answer it, but that's kind of my where I was going. If you guys are part of the Caribbean culture, wouldn't it be allowed to date a Caribbean man? Like if you because
I
you guys are
yeah.
technically like people will go to Guyana, right, to
Hmm.
for vacations, and
Hmm.
their music is the same. I mean, it's not French Creole, but it's the patois, it's
Same
the
type of
Jamaican, it's the
vibe. Yeah.
Trinidad, it's the vibes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Wine and all
Yeah.
that, right? So
Yeah.
why would
Yeah.
it be frowned upon to date, out in the Caribbean culture?
Yeah. I think because once again that ties to our Indian culture of like since like I said, we hold our in the Indian culture, the religion being Hindu, we hold that
Mm.
so high that who you marry should look like an Indian, like should have your hair type. So in that sense,
Is there
that's
racial
why it becomes.
tension? Is there racial tension within your culture?
I think so. I think it's gone way better for
I'm talking
sure.
about what's it. So like when I mean by that, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So in being a Haitian American, and I've been to. Have you been? Before I ask the question, have you been back home?
Never been to Guyana.
Okay, so I've been to Haiti, right? And
Yeah.
the reason why I asked this question is because in the Haitian culture, the light skinned Haitian will get more privileges and get more passes than the dark skinned Haitian, right? Like
Yep.
I remember going to a spot in Petronville in Haiti and it's in PV and it was called Smokies and it was owned by, what we call Grimels and Grimos. That's the two words that we say for light skinned women and light skinned men, right?
Mm.
And they were owned by that. They were owned by them, and you could tell there was anytime a dark skinned person ran in, if there wasn't like somebody that was of importance, they were kind of frowned upon. Even to the point where an American Haitian like myself walked in, it was just like, what the hell are you doing here? So, is there any
Yeah.
racial tensions from that
Yes.
perspective within your
Yes.
culture?
Yeah. I would say if you're light skinned, you're like, you're it. You made it.
You're it.
If you're dark skinned, it's like, you're a black sheep. What
So,
happened to
where do you
you?
fall? Because you're like in between. Are you considered light skinned?
No, yeah, I'm considered like on the dark end. Like both of my sisters, so my mom is light skinned. Like both of my
Yeah.
older sisters are light skinned. My dad is my complexion. So I'm the darkest one out of my
Damn, you're
sisters.
the black sheep kid.
I'm the black sheep. I didn't like it. I did not like that growing up, but I see the beauty of it now. Now, like I'm older and I understand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love my complexion.
Yeah. Yeah. Fire.
And I tell
Dope.
my sisters all the time, you wish you had this. You guys have to tan to sit in the sun for this, but it's all love.
All love. All love. All right. So that's growing up. Grew up in Dorchester. And you never lived outside of Dorchester?
I lived in Hyde Park with my fiance, which I loved. Oh my God.
You like
But
really?
back in
I love
Dorchester,
Hyde
yeah,
Park. Love
I
Hyde Park.
love Hyde Park.
Yeah.
It's like hidden. The area was just, I'm a very like reserved, private person.
Yeah.
So like being in the Hyde Park, it was nice. I mean, the neighborhood was beautiful. So yeah, I liked it a
Nice,
lot.
nice, nice. All right. So let's dive into what I like to call the origin story of balloon pop.
Okay.
Origin stories are the best because everybody sees, like I was on Instagram, you have a few thousand followers, right? um and I was going through just stories, you reposted stuff, people are reposting, you're working with officials in the city, you're working with private organizations, government organizations, you have, I feel as though like your business model is B2B and also B2C, you know what I mean? So you have
Mm-hmm.
the B2B, the business to business segment, and you also have where I've done business with you, and the B2C, which is business to consumer, you have that as well. So how did Balloon Pop come up? And before you answer that, just from my vantage point, I now see I dated a girl that is still doing, she still does what you're doing right now.
Oh,
Um
nice.
yeah, she's out in Springfield.
Okay.
I dated a girl that, she does it. But you were one of the first individuals that I actually seen do it and
Mm,
really making strides with it. And I
mm.
think she's doing her thing as well, but she was doing more, at least at the time, business to consumer. You
Okay.
have expanded your brands and your brand to like business to business. How did that start? Like, what made you want to go into blowing up balloons, kid?
That's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. Like, why am I doing this again? No, I love it. So my older sister's gonna laugh that I'm telling the story, but so my oldest sister, because I have two, my oldest sister,
Hmm.
she used to do event planning,
Yeah.
and my like father-in-law's birthday was coming up, and she's helping me decorate, trying to figure out what to do. So we're looking for like, the decor needed something, and we're looking and we're talking via text. I see this balloon display, like this picture, like a balloon garland, put just balloons put together, colors look great. For me, I'm like, yo, what is this? So
Nice.
I send it to my sister. She sends it to me, something similar. And we're
Hmm.
like, yo, we gotta try this. So we try to put it together. I mean, it was very small, tiny. But I fell in love with putting it together. like designing and just like working with your hands. Like I just something about it was very therapeutic. So did it for my father-in-law's party, and then an event planner that I work closely with. She's like, "Yo, I'm giving out this free event for a younger child. It will be nice if you can just like practice more, and you guys should come and do a balloon decor." So we did that again. Like once again, we tried it out, the different techniques. I just fell in love with it more and more. When that event was over, the free event for the younger girl, we
Mhm.
I got inquiries on my personal Instagram, and like, "Oh, how much would you charge for this?" And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm telling my sister, like, "Yo, we can do this. Like, I think we might have something." But my older sister was like, "I'm trying to focus on like my job. You do
Right.
it. I don't want to deal with people, the customers, and man knowing me. Like, if you need me, I'm here." So I really just took it and ran with it, and it like I said, it's so therapeutic. I just fell in love with just the designing part of it.
Is your
Like
sister
truly.
involved today in Balloon
Yeah.
Pop?
Oh my God. I can always call her up to help. She
Okay.
will do parties too, like friends, if they have birthdays and other people that reach out. Like my middle sister owns an event space called the Avni.
Mhm.
So my sister, my older sister that would help with balloons would sometimes do balloons too. So I'm happy to see that she's still in it. She's still interested. And I would reach out to her if I need help. She's so supportive, which I
Nice.
love. Yeah.
That's super dope to me just because, it's stories like that that make you think about how people get to where they are. Like you were trying to do something for a family member and you seen something and you kind of like, oh shit, I
Yeah.
actually
It was
like,
like, I remember that reaction till this day.
yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So y- you posted it on your Instagram or on social media, and immediately you were getting inquiries about to do it privately for other folks that you didn't know or you knew them.
Yeah. But I have to say the event planner I worked with at the time, she pushed it too. So I have to
Right.
thank her for that, and just having the that person really like push me like, "Yo, like do it for her, do it for her." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know the pricing." She goes, "It will come, you will figure it out." So it was nice to have her there to do that.
That's fire. So
Yeah.
you basically got your first sale without even knowing what the hell you were doing.
Yeah. I was like, "I don't know. What color do you want? Where do I get the balloons from? What?" Like
So
it was a
this is
lot.
8 years ago. So what, 2013? No,
Um
2015? No, I'm a
Seven?
dumbass.
Is it 17?
See,
Wait,
you don't know numbers. I
17.
don't know numbers.
Well, it's crazy. This is crazy. I want to say 2017. I thought that was 8 years.
Okay, so 8 years ago, you did your
Yeah.
first balloon thing. It was for a family member, and it became something. So when did you actually, put it together? When did it really
Mm,
click? Like, okay,
mm,
this is a real business. I am
yep.
now going to charge X. I'm now going to do this. This is how I'm gonna, you know, build the business. When did the brand building come into play?
That's a great question. Um, Once again, I have to give it up to event planners because they're really the ones you work with, you get close to
Mhm.
when you're doing this type of work. But I started off with another event planner, and I did like 8 events, 10 events with them. So the more I did it, and on top of that, I was looking at workshops or like YouTube videos. They talked about balloon pricing. I also asked other balloon artists, like in different states in Boston, how much are you charging? So I was able to really get the balloon industry standard rate, and then ask myself, well, how much do you want to walk away with? Like you could do whatever you
Mhm.
want. Like how, like
Mhm.
just make it make sense. So I would say
Yeah.
probably a couple of maybe like 3 years, maybe 4 years going into it, because I had a lot to learn.
Right.
Is when I really started to figure out pricing. Yeah, I would say.
So what is your business model today? Like, you're 8 years in. Obviously, you're your own boss, and I'm assuming you're President El Chapo, El CEO of Balloon
Everything.
Pop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that a business that you could expand on? Like, could you have a storefront? Is it something
Yeah.
that you could teach and have other, event planners slash balloon artists come into
hmm
play and work with and collaborate with?
Yeah. So what I try to do, I try to look at what's being done already, and I try to stick to, well, what does Parvena enjoy doing? Because I
Mhm.
know I don't want to do things because everybody else is doing it. I want to feel connected to everything that I do.
Yep.
And I feel like having a storefront, something I always wanted, I really did. But then I got to learn from other balloon businesses from like different states how stressful it is. And that's fine. Like it's stressful. Owning a business is stressful in general. But my heart is not in owning like a store.
Right.
Workshops, I don't know what it is, but I don't enjoy teaching how to do balloons. I more so like to teach you how can you market your balloon. You already made a balloon display. How can you sell it? I feel like that's one thing that I enjoy talking about, like communicating with your clients. Like that's what my passion is there.
So how do you what does that cost? Like so if we're talking to the public, if somebody says, "Hey, I want to get into balloon
Mhm.
to to making balloon decor," what is the model? What is the pricing structure? Are you paying for the air that you're pumping in? Like, because there's a qualitative amount to what you
Yeah.
want to put on something, right? So that resource, whatever you're purchasing, if you're purchasing 1,000 balloons, I'm imagining each balloon has a dollar value for you to make your money back. So
Yeah.
how does that pricing model work so that you could actually make a profit?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, let's say I always think of like my expenses
Yeah.
and I just make sure what I walk away with is going to pay the expenses, but also have a little bit left over where I can actually function. So
Okay.
people always ask me how much do you price? What's a good price point? I always say, well, what's your expense? What does your expenses look like? You could charge whatever you want. You just also have to make sure that you're providing quality work where people can say, oh, this costs that much. Oh, I understand why.
But eight
Like,
years in, but 8 years
yeah,
in, now that you are one of the figures in Boston, I would say, right? You're one of the primary individuals. If somebody wants the balloon decor, they're gonna reach out to
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
If if Holly from Hyde Park, wants balloons, I'm assuming her pricing is gonna be different from City Hall, isn't it?
Yeah. Like you mean if like City Hall being a client?
Yeah, like or just a big business or a small business, doesn't matter the size of the business, but if you're making a balloon decor for, a gala opposed to a
Yeah.
house party, how does that separate, in terms
Oh,
of
yeah.
how do you price that out?
Right. I think for me, it all depends on how big are we going? Like, how full is the balloon display? That equals up to more balloons, the amount of balloons you're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
And then also how big, how wide, how full are we going? Like, what kind of impact do you want? Some clients, even like I worked with a couple of big clients and they'll say, I just want something small. It ain't got to be big. So that budget wasn't that big. So it
Right.
really depends on like I always ask my clients, when your guest walks in, how do you want them to feel? If it's like, I want it to be like, whoa, that's when you know, okay, we're going bigger here. This is a big
W-
budget.
What's the dopest or what's the one client that you're like, damn, I work with that person or that company, and I didn't think I would ever work with them.
That's a great question. I would say, like right now, I would say, like I'm working with a nice. She runs like the mayor's youth summit. It's my
Mm-hmm.
second year doing it. I wouldn't have think I would ever be able to like. That's a huge event.
Right.
And then
What is it
working with
called?
him, mayor's youth summit, but the
Okay.
event planner, the event coordinator is a nice Ramos, I think. Sorry if I butchered her last name. But I think like growing up as a youth, like we didn't really have a lot of like youth summits. We did, and that ended up really bad, which is why they stopped it. But to have it come back and be like, oh, Parvena, can you be the balloon person? That was huge. That meant everything to me because I used to be like a youth. I used to work with youth workers, so
Right.
it all kind of came full circle for me.
So
And
how
I would
did that
say, sorry to cut you off. I would say Embrace Boston is another big
embrace
organization
Boston?
that I've worked with. They're awesome. They do a lot of great work in Boston for.
Wow. What's the most you charge? What's your biggest bag that you brought in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do I have to answer that?
I mean,
Um,
the people want to know. Like, you could give a ballpark.
biggest job for me, I would say. That I'm trying to think. Probably, honestly, a lot of people don't pay that much, but I would say like 10 to 15.
Five figures is nice.
Yeah. I
Five
want to go
figures is
bigger.
nice.
I'm like, I want to get bigger budgets, but that's pretty big, I think.
No, I mean, listen, five figures, five figures for an event. How much time did that event take? Like, what was it like? How much time did it take you to prep that event?
Yeah. So let's say that this event was on a Sunday. I started prepping, getting balloons ready on like that Monday. So I took the whole week prepping.
A week?
Yeah,
They better have
prepping.
paid you 20. God damn it.
Yeah. And then
Do
on
you
top of that,
need
I had a go ahead.
do you need a agent, marketing agent? Because I'm great at negotiating now.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we gotta talk. We gotta talk.
I'm great at negotiating now. I can negotiate a dollar now. You know what I mean?
I
That's what I
love
do on
that. Yeah, yeah,
that's what I
yeah. I
do. That's
love
what I do
that.
for my 9 to 5. My 9 to 5, I negotiate contracts all day, every day.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
yeah.
I think we might have to make that work. I love that. But I would say like prepping in the balloon world or any business, but mostly for what I'm learning about the balloon world is prepping is key.
Yeah.
And we had like honestly that job was only like two to three big displays.
Hmm.
But prep like when we got there, we had all the balloons already blown out. It was just a matter of putting them together. It was fast. It was like perfect. It was done perfectly. So prepping because when you get these big jobs, you don't want to be stressed. The last thing we do is be stressed out you because you don't feel it just feels like, what am I working for? This is too stress. I should be getting paid more. You know what I mean?
That's a
But if
fact.
you're prepping it, you go in there, you get it done right. Now it's like, all right, and I got paid. You know, if it feels
Yeah.
better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, I've seen on your Instagram, I've seen a couple of different people that I know personally as well. I know that you work with Marcia who does the flowers. Have you
Oh,
worked with her
it's my girl.
before?
I love her.
Yeah.
Yes, like I love
She's a
her. She's
sweetheart.
just been
Yeah.
so supportive. Yeah, I work with her
Yeah.
closely. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice,
Hmm.
nice. I've known Marcia for a little bit now, and
Oh, that's
you know,
dope. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't remember when she started, but I remember her saying, "Hey, I have a flower business," and her and I were talking privately at one time, and was she just
Hmm.
telling me about her business model and whatever, and to see where it's at now and see what
Oh, she
she's
is.
doing is fire. And what's
Yeah.
fire, I mean, this is why I love Boston. If you when you're from the inner city, to see y'all connecting in collaboration, I mean, it's fire because I know her from being a High Park kid, High Park Mattapan kid,
Yep. Yep.
you and I know each other because we have a mutual friend.
Hmm.
So the connections and the ties and connections in Boston is real, and like to see y'all working together is super dope to me.
She's such a good friend of mine. Like she checks in all the time, congratulates me. We do the same. She's an amazing person.
Yep, 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 yep. Um, question for you.
Yeah.
So now you have this show or the YouTube show Balloon Pop, the actual popping of the balloon of the Dayton
Ooh,
module,
I did see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering because your name is Balloon Pop. You came up with that name 8 years
Yep.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
That now is the new fad of how people are deciding if they want to date somebody or
Yep.
not.
Yep.
Has that has Balloon Pop, the dating version of it, impacted your business? Like, has people come up to you like, "Are you the balloon?" Because I've told
No.
people, I've told
Mm.
people like, I'm interviewing the Balloon Pop girl. They're like, "No way," and I'm
Oh,
like,
they're thinking the dating?
they're thinking of
Yeah,
dating
yeah,
person. I'm
yeah.
like, I don't know.
Dang, I gotta change my
Yeah,
name. But
nah,
no, not yet.
you gotta
Not yet.
copyright that
I
bitch.
gotta copyright that.
If
Yeah.
you,
Which is
yeah,
why I
you
try
gotta
to get the
copyright it.
Boston part, like Balloon Pop Boston, but still people say Balloon Pop. But no,
Yeah,
you're right. And that hasn't happened yet. But I did see that and I was like, what the hell is this? But yeah.
yeah, that's funny. Um, okay, so I'm doing all the talking here, but
Yeah.
feel free to freestyle. But before we transition, so any expansions, any other business ventures that you want to tackle, and I guess a part two to that is, what advice would you give to anybody that is pursuing their own business, that is, you know, that is identifying what they want to do?
Yeah.
And before I let you answer that, I kind
Mhm.
of it just came to my thoughts. The reason I asked is because I was fortunate enough last week, and the last week of February, to go to the McCormick and do a career fair, and I was on a
Mm.
panel speaking to the students. And what you don't realize when you're 36, 37, and you're in your career and you're doing your own entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
how much people look up to you, the youth look up to you to actually get from point A to point B. And they want the information, they want it, but the issue with our generation and our where we come from, sometimes we're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to open our mouths to connect and
Yeah.
network. And I
Yeah.
and I only say that because when I was on that panel, the information and that they were trying to retain and obtain from the panel and us as being
Mm-hmm.
panelists was just eye-opening, because it was just like,
Mm.
damn, you really want to know about XYZ and how you got from point A to point B.
Right.
So I asked that question because what would you give back to somebody that is not necessarily trying to get into the balloon artist world, but just being a business owner and trying to do their own thing?
Yeah. I think like I'll start with that question because I think that's important. I think letting people know, treating everything you want to do or like one thing you really want to do, treat it like an experiment. And if it doesn't work out, have the ability to step back and say, well, it didn't work out because why? What was in my control that I could have done a little bit better?
Mhm.
And I think have those self-talks with yourself. And that's gotten me through so much in my business. I would tell people like try things, don't just because someone doesn't think it's cool, like you have to try to know if you can actually get it done. And I think yeah, like I said, treat everything like an experiment. So you can go back and ask yourself questions on like why things didn't work, what went well, what can I do better. Like be your own teacher and your own motivator.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I mean that's very important. I was telling those kids, similar things, and I think it's the same thing when I think about this podcast and just stuff that I'm trying, right? Because
Yeah.
if you if the people that know this is really a sports podcast, and I was talking to my business partner and I was telling him, hey, I want to interview people, and to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you,
Mhm.
interviewing Peter of Mathematic Athletics really made the light bulb click. I'm like, oh shit, I'm kind of good at this, or
Yeah.
I have a
I was
passion for
watching that
this.
interview. Yeah.
Well, the interview
It was
hasn't come
dope.
out yet. I'm actually gonna
I
drop
think
that
it
interview in
is it the one how do you say it?
Mathematic Athletics.
I think you had different like different
Yeah, different clips of
kind of
it. I have
snippets. Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
different snippets. So the interview
Hmm.
will be dropping this week.
Oh, good.
But when I did the interview, I realized like, oh shit, I was actually really like it, but I don't necessarily know how to go about it, and I don't necessarily know what people I should whose shoulders I should tap in. And when I was interviewing you, when we decided because to be honest
Hmm.
with you, you were supposed to be my second interview,
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah.
timing just didn't happen properly. But it's
Hmm.
happening now, which is I'm grateful for.
Hmm.
But interviewing you is really has my juices flowing. Pause. And the reason for that is because like you bring in a different type of crowd, a different type of element, a different genre of individuals that's following you. And
Hmm.
originally, this was supposed to be like a sports podcast,
Sports. Yeah.
right? And then, as much as it is a sports podcast, you know, I think Cam and Mace messed me up a little bit because everybody's doing a sports podcast.
Yeah.
But talking to individuals about what they've done, what they're doing, and their entrepreneurship and how they're growing within that world and being from the Boston area is super
Right. I
dope
was
to
about to
me.
say. Yeah.
Super dope. What does Boston mean to you?
Mm. When I think of Boston, I think of just exploring. Because, like I said, back to my growing up, I didn't get to do much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as I'm getting older and I'm networking and I'm meeting different people, I mean, we have so many great schools here, so many great hospitals here. And I meet a lot of people from they're like, this is like a stop to just like their journey. And
Yeah.
I learned so much from like where they come from, well, why are they here? And I feel like for me, it's a place to just explore. It's just what I feel like. The people are so diverse. You learn so much from everyone. Even like the small business community, but the minority business, we all clap for each other. We all support each other. We come out, we show out for one another. And so I would say exploring aspiration and also like community and unity. What is what I think of when I think of Boston.
Nice. Right.
Exploration, if I said that right. Yeah.
You know you're West Indian. The words come out, and
Right. The accent comes
they,
out.
they come out. They come out choppy
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. I'm
Yeah,
proud to be from Boston for sure.
that's
I
a
would
fact.
say.
I
Yeah.
love it too. Yeah, yeah. I like the Boston aspect of things. You know, being outside of Boston. So now that I live outside of Boston, and we talked about this
Oh,
during
that's
brunch the
right.
other day,
Yeah.
right? Being outside of Boston is weird to me. It's weird to me in a few different ways. Weird in a good way, weird in a bad way. When I
Mhm.
come home, like for an example, I went home for a week and I was able to get, patty, cocoa bread, and cheese from P&R on Blue Hill Ave. You
Yep.
understand? I can't find a good Jamaican restaurant, around the corner within this DMV area. And don't get me wrong, there's good restaurants, there's good food in the area, but like
Right.
Caribbean style, like
Yeah,
able
you're not
able to
gonna
get
find that.
that,
Hmm.
I'm not, I wasn't able to get that. But it's bittersweet because when I come home, I always feel as though that it feels nostalgic to me every single time because I'm looking at the architect, I'm looking at the infrastructure, I'm looking at
Hmm.
how clean the city is. Outside of the
Hmm.
Molina Cass Boulevard, the Crackhead Mile,
Oh gosh, yeah.
outside of that
We
section of
call
the
it the
city,
beach. That's the beach.
that's the beach. Yeah, they
They
getting
laid out.
high and they
Yeah.
floating.
Yeah.
Out,
Sadly, yeah.
yeah, outside of
Mhm.
the Molina Cass Boulevard area, Boston is just a beautiful city.
Yeah.
But on the downside, and hence why this podcast and these interviews are flowing, is there's not a lot of us that pop out, or there's not a lot of us that gets represented in the proper way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I go to I have season tickets to the Celtics.
Hmm.
You go to the Celtics game, it's just a crowd of white people. Now, granted, to be a seat, most people that have Celtics tickets, money and all that, but like just going in, I went to the casino the other night, at Encore. It's just
Yeah.
super fucking white. And
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with white people because
No,
I don't have a racist bone in my body,
of course.
but
Yeah.
it sucks because we have to go to certain things to experience culture.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Yeah. Did you go to that Burna Boy concert a few
Oh man,
last
no.
year?
So I like Burna Boy, but I'm a Wizkid fan.
Okay.
So I didn't go. My sisters went. They had a blast. I was kind of jealous. But yeah, they went.
So let me give you a funny story about Burna Boy concert.
Hmm.
On Instagram, watching the Boston version of Burna Boy,
Oh,
and then and I went to the Burna Boy concert in DC, like
okay.
because he came like literally 3 days later to DC.
Yeah,
I felt, and I only watched it via Instagram. I felt like the Boston Burna Boy concert was much more fire
I
than the
agree.
DC one.
I agree. I think I became a Burna Boy fan after watching the
Yeah,
Boston
it's
show. I was like, he just like how everyone came together. It was
right.
nice. And I think he got an award, like a bot. Did we give him a day, like a Burna Boy day? I don't remember.
I thought he
But
got a key to the city or something like that.
maybe that's what it is. Yeah. That was dope to see too.
Yeah, and to me, to me, watching how the Caribbean and African culture of Boston come together, because we have a lot of black people here,
Yep.
but it's the black culture is different from other regions of the
Right.
country.
Right.
Our
Right.
black culture is Caribbean based. You have the African Americans in there too. Then you have your Cavers, and then you have your Ethiopians and all of that. They all
Right.
mix, but we
Right.
have a mixture of minorities within the melting pot.
Right.
Where I think in certain regions, there's not a lot of mixy. It's either you're black, African American, and what part of the country your family came from. You feel me?
Right. Right. That is
Nah,
dope though. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, we all came together.
yeah,
Like the Caribbeans,
yeah, yeah,
African. That's nice. Yeah, to think about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I guess I have some questions for you.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I kind of want because I know we talk about like how I would like to expand. I don't think I really answered on that, but I think something I'm still thinking about. Like,
Mhm.
because like I said, I've been doing this for 8 years, and
Yeah,
I feel like I've just been creating and creating because it's truly what I love to do.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
other people are like moving into like workshops, having a brick and mortar, or having like a shop.
Mm-hmm.
They're adding, not only are they doing balloons, but they're doing balloon and decorations and event planning. And I feel like I'm not like I'm stuck doing this, but I feel something, as a human, you kind of want to look to see what's possible, what's out there. I think I'm still trying to figure that out, but I
Yeah.
know that I have to love what I do. If I don't love what I do, I'm not
Yeah.
going to be good at it. So I think I'm still in that process of like maybe expanding my team, making
Yeah.
sure that I get these bigger budget jobs so that I could pay my team. So just thinking
Mm-hmm.
of, I'm still in the process of thinking about expanding. But I say that to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see your podcast? And when it comes to Boston, and we even talk about the youth, I feel like this podcast was you're showcasing so many great businesses within Boston. This could be a great way to show the youth what's possible for them.
I'll
Um,
be honest. Well, go ahead. Let me let you finish your
yeah, I
question.
guess that's just my question of like, where do you see yourself going with the podcast? Like, what plans do you have for it? I know it's like third episode, but still, you've been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I'll answer this question. The podcast has been something that I've been. So let me go back to the origin story of this, right?
Yeah,
If I were to be interviewed, it would start with my passion for sports, and I wanted to really be an ESPN analyst. I wanted to be on
gotcha.
ESPN and talk about sports, right?
Mhm.
Where do I see the podcast going? I've been doing this podcasting thing for about 8 years. I got episodes going back to
You said
2018, 2000.
8 years?
I mean,
Oh,
since
that's dope.
2018, 2019. Like I've been
Oh, okay.
recording the podcast.
Mm.
I have episodes on Apple Podcast,
Oh,
Spotify, on SoundCloud. I got episodes everywhere. I got old YouTube videos.
wow.
So the podcasting world is something that been doing for a bit.
Hmm.
Doing this interview series is different from what I was
Okay.
originally doing.
Okay.
But to answer your question, where do I see it? To be honest with you, this is right now a hobby. I I am experimenting and I'm
Good.
just playing around right now. I got the equipment, I did it. There's other business ventures that I'm trying to tackle where the podcast
Nice.
right now is not necessarily on the hierarchy of things. It allows me to have a therapeutic thing where when I log off of my 9 to 5, when I'm not talking business ventures with my business partner, when
Negotiating.
I'm not negotiating deals, I'm not flying all over the country to, go from point A to point B,
Hmm.
this is therapeutic. And I'll end it off by saying that, you know, I really just want to showcase Boston's talent, but
Right.
eventually branch out, right? Like I would love to interview a Bia because she's from the
Oh,
area,
yes.
right? You
Yes.
know,
Yep.
I would love to interview her. I would love to interview a Shabazz Napier who, went to the NBA and did their thing. I would love to do those things. And there's other individuals like, my man Charlie, he's doing the CWT TV. Like he has a podcast where he's interviewed some significant individuals on his podcast, and he's been in his own lane for a minute.
Mhm.
I got a chance to interview Mike Dees, and
Oh,
so
yeah. I saw that one.
I'm using my connections to
Good.
interview,
Hmm.
and talk my shit. But
Yeah.
realistically, right now, this is a hobby, and maybe it does turn into something more, ambitious. But right now, it's just a hobby, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, that's good. So another question I have for you is I know you did two interviews.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know, like, what do you take away from the interviews, or do you feel like you learned something new every time, or the last two interviews you did?
Yeah, for sure. I think, for me, even though I have these relationships, I have a relationship with Mike. That's a friendship over like, a couple, like 10 plus years now. Peter, over
Hmm.
20 years. I've known you through Sandrika for I've known her for like 5, 6 years now. And I've always heard of you through her.
Hi,
I
Drika.
learned,
Sorry.
what's up, Dreeks? I always understand their why, their reason for being passionate about their business and how they got into it. Like, Peter was always doing fashion. As I didn't know that his mom passed away and how his mom was an advocate for his
Yeah.
business. Working with your sister. Those are the things that I learned. But most importantly, what I've taken from the 3 interviews that I've done thus far, um, I implement some of the things that you guys have taught me into my own
Mm.
every day. You know what I mean? Because outside of the podcast because the podcast is just a front in terms of, a face. It's easy. We pay for the equipment and all of the above.
Mhm.
But the business that we are actually trying to build is completely different. It's not a front facing organization like Balloon
Mm.
Pop. It's not a front facing organization like a Bread or a mathematic athletics. We're trying to do something completely different, but understanding what our whys are and why we are motivated to wake up every day to do it is something that I take from these interviews.
Nice. That's awesome. Good. As long as you're getting back to, that's important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate the questions. Like I said before, I think one of the reasons why this is like therapeutic for me, and I'll wrap it up like this, is when I
Mhm.
was at Curry College, I took a video editing class. It was an
Mhm.
elective, and
Mhm.
it taught me how to use Final Cut Pro, which is a editing software. And that to me is what I love. Like Instagram, like on Instagram, I like to post curated content. I don't like to post
Mhm.
anything. I want to post curated content. I want the videos to be fire. I want you to
Mhm.
think I'm living luxurious and all of the
Yeah.
extra shit. You feel me?
Yep.
And it could be something basic, but I realize the power of the camera and the power of how you
Mhm.
edit could really transitions and transform somebody's thought process of how they
Right.
think of something.
That's very true. That's very true. That's awesome. See, I didn't even know that. Like
Yeah, video
you
editing
going to
is
Curry
fire for
College
me.
and that taking that with you, the video
Oh, yeah, yeah,
editing. That's
yeah.
dope. That's dope.
So we've covered a lot. So Balloon Pop primarily in Boston. Are you expanding outside of Boston?
No, but that would be nice. I think about that here and there.
Now the people now you are, I'm not going to get too much into your business, but you're going to
That's
be taking a
okay.
break. We're going to be taking a break soon from Balloon Pop, based on a motherly ways. Let's just call it that, right?
Mm.
So when you take your break and you're taking your, maternity leave, how do you how do you plan to sustain the business,
Yeah,
and how should the people, contact you for
great
the
question.
couple months that you're going to be away from the business?
Yeah. So I'm expecting, which is probably new to a lot of people. I'm excited. As you said, I'm dropping an album. Um,
Dro- Dropping the
Ju-
first album,
yep.
first solo album she's dropping. What's the due
There we
date?
go.
What's the due date?
June 9th. June 9th.
June 9th, Gemini baby. You know what I'm saying?
Gemini.
Is it a
Oh
boy or
man.
girl? You would know if it's a
Pray
boy
for
or a
me.
girl.
It's a boy.
Oh, it's a boy.
It's a
Oh, you
boy.
okay? Your fiance was in Rotten. I get it.
Right. Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, no, I mean that whole yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, because I heard like if you have girls, that means you are
I mean, I had a girl for other
you
reasons,
have
not because of that.
okay, okay. But I would say, let's see, I'm trying to answer your questions. So I have a couple of people who are already balloon artists who are I spoke to, I have great connections with them, I trust them. And they're gonna kind of take over some jobs that I probably won't be able to do physically. I won't
Uh-huh,
be there.
uh-huh.
So they'll be there, and I definitely let my clients know that ahead of time because a lot of clients will say, "I want your work. I want to see you there when I go when you set up. I want to be able to see you." But if they see someone else, sometimes it can become like a challenge. So I like to be very transparent with my clients, letting them know who will be there. But
Yeah.
the people that are going to be helping me are more than willing to represent like Balloon Pop. They're like, we'll wear your shirt, even though we have a whole other business, like we will do what we got to do to represent you and make sure that we fulfill the request. I think I'm more trying to take on jobs that are doable for the business owners that are going to be helping me. So I try not to like put a lot on them.
Yeah.
And I think we're still reaching out to me directly and how they would do it, email, DM. I'll still be able to connect with clients and pass it along to the 2 or 3 people that will be helping me. So I'm still here. Physically, I just won't be at the setups. I just don't know how this birthing process is gonna go, the healing and all that. That's just all new to me. So it's been a learning experience. It's crazy to think that, well, I'm about to be someone's mom. Like, what? Me?
Damn. Are you excited to be a mom?
I am. I am. I've been like I have a niece and a nephew. My
Yeah.
middle sister, older sister, has been just like an amazing role model when it comes to motherhood. That girl, she holds it down. And I
Nice.
don't know how she does it, but just like watching her do it, I'm
Yeah.
like, I hope I could be half of a mother as you are. So I have great role models and support systems in place. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Nice.
It's a
I mean,
blessing.
it is. It is. I would say parenthood is definitely something that doesn't matter how much planning you do. I think even
Yeah.
now, my daughter's 13.
Wow, 13. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
You know, you run in my pockets, but I would say, there's no planning for kids. You could do your best to try to be
True.
preventive and all of the above, but every day is a new challenge. Every day is a new thing. And as a primary caregiver where you are the mom,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you're going my I guess my words of advice is, you're gonna go through your peaks and valleys. Enjoy the
Mm.
little small phases. Enjoy,
Yeah.
they talk about the terrible twos, the terrible
Yep.
threes. They talk about the fours, fives, and sixes. But dog, when they get to like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, it's a different ball game. And you
Oh, I
and
bet.
and I will say this. I wish my daughter could have stayed in that small space, but now she could talk back. Oh my
See,
God.
even I love my niece. I love her. She's 7. I'd be like, why do I feel like I want to fight a 7-year-old right now?
Yo.
She's not bad, but they talk back. They have the little attitudes here and there. They ask like amazing questions. Wow. But yeah, that's just, I hear you. I've been hearing that a lot of like, enjoy like
Enjoy
a
it.
newborn. Like it goes really fast. That time goes by. So I've been hearing that a lot.
I was looking at
Yeah.
I went to, so, my daughter is like Dora the Explorer. She likes
Aw.
to do all the extra shit. Dye
Mm-hmm.
her hair. She likes to do all the extra shit,
Oh,
right?
okay, okay,
So she
okay.
fucked her hair up. She fucked her hair up, right?
What does she do? She cut it or dye? Like
Dyeing
how does
it
she?
purple, green, whatever. Annabelle, if you're
Oh.
listening to this, all the extra shit, right? So finally, Thanksgiving, I was just looking at, and I said, yo, I told her mom, I said, listen, I will fund this. Like, you need to properly do your hair, go to somebody that is going to properly take care of your hair. We need to do it
Right.
every week and all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
finally, her hair is coming back. But here's the issue:
Oh. Yeah.
she looks like an adult. She looked like
Oh.
she. When I say she looks like an adult, it's not a bad thing. She looks
It's
grown.
not. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
maturing.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm just like, damn, where's my little girl at? You know what I'm saying? Where's the
Yes. Oh.
curly hair? Hair's all short and all the
Mm-hmm.
extra shit.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, you begin to miss those moments.
Jesus Christ.
Aw. But 13 years old, that's awesome. You got a teenager.
Yeah.
That's dope. I'll pray for you.
Nigga.
All right.
Nigga.
Whew, that's wild.
God damn. I just got a gray hair for that. You see that? I just
See,
got an
there you
extra
go. It
gray
came
hair.
right in. It came
It
right
came
in.
right in. I've been thinking about that.
Right.
All right. Any parting words for the people?
Mm.
Again, any parting words for the people?
Um, I mean, just I think at the beginning of the podcast you mentioned like where to follow me.
Yeah.
Um, but just it's at Balloon Pop Boston on Instagram. That's really where you'll see me. I really just post my work. You don't really see me. It's really just my work.
Yeah.
But no, I think parting of some words. I think it's just been a pleasure just to be able to do what I do. It's a privilege, it's a blessing, and I truly enjoy it. I look forward to like welcoming working with new businesses, new business owners, event planners in the industry. Yeah, I'm just excited for what's to come.
Yeah, I'm excited for you too.
Thank you.
I would love, what I would love to see, and maybe it's not in your wheelhouse, but I would love to see the expansion of Balloon Pop. I think that, you have a following. You've
Mm,
collaborated with some, dope individuals, some dope movements, and some, good organizations within the city. I think and expanding it, where you can actually, be a mom and see your business that you've been doing for the last 8 years, work not at work itself because you still have to manage it, but if you could do something of that magnitude, that would be super dope
yeah.
to me.
Definitely. That's dope. Thank you for that.
Yeah. But I appreciate you coming on the show. I
Thank
appreciate
you
your
for
time.
having me.
We definitely gonna do a part two. We're gonna do a part two post kid. You know what I mean? Because right now you about
Yes. Oh
to,
my
you know
gosh.
what I mean? You about to drop the album. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Album coming soon, June 9th. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Parvena
Yep.
and Balloon Pop Ways. I don't know. We're going to. We don't. Do we have a name? Do we have a name yet?
We're still working on that. It's been hard.
Yeah.
Finding a boy name, I don't know why it's so hard.
Is it gonna be
Girl
like?
names, I have so many ideas,
Yeah.
but we have time.
I mean,
We'll figure it out.
I named my daughter in the hospital room, so
I
we
think
we
that's what's gonna
we picked
happen.
out of a
My
hat.
niece, yeah, see, my niece was like, "Why don't you wait until the baby's born? You can look at him and say, oh, you look like a," and I was like,
Correct.
"That's a great idea." So,
When Annabelle was born, her mom wanted an Italian name, and
mm,
I wanted something more like off the wall.
yeah.
But in Creole, French Creole, Belle is beautiful.
Oh, I love
Anna
that.
is the Italian, so Annabelle was just
Oh,
easy.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
perfect though. I love
yeah.
that. But we'll see. Wish me luck.
I will. Parvina, it was a pleasure. I appreciate your
Same.
time. This is a rich connection. Another episode, another dollar. Boston Balloon Pop Parvena.